Hey guys, usually I like to shoot in a little more exotic locations in the same spot, but I'm a night person, so it doesn't really lend well to the lighting. But let me get right to it. The reason that gold or any precious metal could reach $60,000 an ounce is because of one of the three different values that I listed before: intrinsic, subjective, and utility. And I'll explain them again in the next video. But to this specific point, I'm going to talk purely about subjective value. Subjective is what something is worth to somebody just because it's worth it to them. So let's use a piece of art, for example. You may look at a Jackson Pollock painting and say this is just a guy that threw paint on a canvas. Another person may look at it and say that it tells a story, or you can feel an emotion when you look at it, and that's what art's supposed to do, is instill emotion, people. And I don't know what the going price on a Jackson Pollock is, but I imagine it's over $1 million. Now, the reason that gold can go over $60,000 an ounce is because if they don't have faith in their currencies, they don't have faith in other currencies around the world, they have to put their faith in something to have a sense that they're retaining value. And what it is it's a collective subjectivity, or a collective subjective value for the gold that will create a condition for it to be $60,000 an ounce, where only people with that amount of precious metal can exchange it for, whatever the new currency is or whatever. So, okay, let's say you've got a garage full of gold bars, and it does reach $60,000 an ounce. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to exchange your gold bars for dollars that you don't believe have any value? Can you take that gold bar down to the supermarket and buy food, which is probably not around if you find a currency collapse? I mean, take a look at the Weimar Republic or Venezuela. So even though you've numerically got this value, and you've got a collective subjective value, who are you going to trade with? Are you going to go out and trade with somebody for property with gold bars? I mean, you're essentially entering a barter system. So let's say they do like they did in the 1930s when FDR confiscated all the gold and they went back to the gold standard. If you haven't taken the proper precautions to be able to essentially launder your precious metals purchases, the government will know that you have a garage full of gold bars, and they're going to come and take it. That way, if people believe, they honestly believe, that gold has this subjective value of $60,000 an ounce, they will come and seize it. They'll just simply take it. So, if you haven't laundered your precious metal purchases in a way that it can't be tracked, owning it is a fool game anyway, because what are you going to do when, I don't know who they'd send, probably agents of the Department of the Treasury out with machine guns and all kinds of stuff to seize your gold. So it wouldn't be a pretty situation. So that's another reason. And if you own it in paper, you don't own it. I mean, you can trade it for other things. Same thing with mining stocks. But, and I must emphasize this, in the interim, before there's a complete stabilization, while you're a destabilization or a complete loss of faith in currency, there will be a degradation in the faith of the currency, any currency. So that's why in the interim period, you can make money in a subjective sense if you're able to trade your bullion and get things that I say really have more value than gold. And those are things like solar systems, education. educating yourself is the best thing you can do. You know, gym. You know, if you're unhealthy, get a gym membership, get some running shoes. You know, I mean, I'm by no means a hoarder because you know, I live in an apartment and I happen to know that my community's got a glut of resources anyway, so I don't stockpile, you know, like a lot of people do. But you know, you can go to the grocery store and get yourself a couple bags of rice or, you know, some non-perishable items that would last a long time. You could get bullets. Some people invest in lead, as they say. But the danger in that is, number one, it makes you a big target for criminal elements to want to rob you, especially if you make it known what your arsenal is. Number two, bartering with bullets is not necessarily a good idea because those bullets can come back at you. Now, another YouTuber made an interesting point. His name is, he goes by Viking Preparedness, Pastor Joe Fox. When he talks about it, he says, yeah, you can barter with bullets because who you're going to trade with, you're going to trade with your neighbors, you're going to trade, you know, with guys that you know and you trust. So, you know, you got some 12 gauge buckshot, you give it to him, he's not likely to come back and try and, you know, rob you or raid you. It's for either the defense of your community or for hunting purposes or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, you could trade in that way, but I find, you know, what kind of situation are you going to be in where your neighbor is either going to defend your community or hunt? You mean, you may as well give him the shot that he needs to take care of that business unless he's a shit shot and you know it's going to go to waste. But that's neither here nor there. Kind of got a little off topic. But that is how, you know, you can earn money off the subjective value of precious metals. But you just have to know when to get out in time, and at any time the government can seize it, and at any time the price can be manipulated. And you have to remember, what can you trade it for? So look for alternative currencies. I'll get into that a little bit later. If you don't have faith in your currency, so just a quick message from Hank, and I'll get back to explaining the other types of value a little bit later.